Alright there, Badgers. Right. So, I have an eco vid come out today. Need to get that done, but I'll be doing that later today. I also want to try and find this State of the Climate address by Ed Miliband. But today, we are going to take a look at the work for the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero live stream, Energy Security and Net Zero Committee from Parliament, and they are questioning Ed Miliband, one of the stars of this government, one of the only stars of this government. Let me know what you guys think about this. I want to do a bit more. If Ed's going to be a bit more active on this, I want to do a bit more on this as well. So let me know if you want to see me do a bit more of this. Again, a bit more of a boring video, but the EnviroVid, the next episode of the EnviroVid will be coming out today. And if I can find it, the State of the Climate address, I will try to get done tomorrow, hopefully. If I can get it out today, then bang. But it might have to be done tomorrow. Either way, let's have a look, shall we?
Order.
And please like and subscribe.
Welcome to this afternoon session of the Energy Security.
Also, I will put the link to this. I will put the link to this in the description for this video.
Zero Select Committee, where we are scrutinising the work of the department, and we are delighted to have, for the second time this Parliament, the Secretary of State, Right Honourable Ed Miliband, MP, and the Permanent Secretary, Jeremy Pocklington.
See, it wouldn't surprise me if Miliband wouldn't be too bothered by this, because he's doing a good job.
Gentlemen, you are both very, very welcome. I shall start with the questioning before passing on to my colleagues. And you've had a very busy first year. Do you think you are close to delivering change rather than still in the planning phase?
Well, thank you, Chair. And can I start by putting on record my thanks to you and your committee for your excellent work. And I have had the benefit of reading some of the transcripts of your evidence sessions. And so I just want to...
I hate to pause Ed Miliband, but would you guys please let me know if this is coming through okay? Because when I hear it back, when I'm checking the video, when I hear it back, I hear it fine. I'm getting some people telling me they can't hear it, but I can hear this fine. I've got it up really loud as well. I'm hoping this can be heard clearly. So please let me know in the comments. I need the feedback.
To just say thank you to you for the really interesting work you're doing. To answer your question directly, look, I'm incredibly proud of the pace we've set as a department and what we are already delivering. I think you see across industry stakeholders a really kind of response that says they have noticed the acceleration in the pace of not just ambition but delivery. And I'll just mention a few things where I think we've made real progress. Energy generation.
I like this. He doesn't say like, look, we're making gains. He says we're making gains, and here is where we're making the gains or progress. This is good. This is why I like Ed Miliband.
The lifting of the onshore.
Also because he's a really nice fella.
Ban, the most successful renewables auction ever. The amount of solar consented in 12 months compared to the previous 14 years. The new future home standard with solar as standard, and big reform of grid and planning. On investment, the biggest investment in clean energy in our history as a country in the spending review, including the biggest investment in nuclear in half a century, investment in 4 CCUS clusters, hydrogen transport and storage, and meeting our manifesto commitments on the Warm Homes Plan and Great British Energy. And then on tangible results this year, a few things I would point to. Nearly 3 million extra families will get the £150 Warm Homes discount this winter. 200 schools and 200 hospitals to see their energy bills cut by Great British Energy this year through solar panels, and beginning the process of helping 5 million families under the Warm Homes Plan. Just to say something about priorities for the year ahead, though, to take the context, the later part of your question, I'd say 4 things. First, driving forward at pace on the energy generation we need to get off the roller coaster of fossil fuels. Secondly, translating the benefits of the mission into lower bills for people and communities, including delivering the Warm Homes Plan, which will help cut bills, expanding solar to more communities and families. Third, and this is a piece of work that Jeremy and I have been engaged on, is we consider ourselves an industrial policy department now, not just an energy policy department. So delivering on the promise of good jobs across the country, which the investments I've talked about will make possible, and making sure these are good jobs with decent wages and strong trade unions. And then fourth, internationally, working with other countries to keep momentum driving forward on the road to COP30 and beyond. So
interesting. So they're looking at this properly. They're not just looking at it like the Tories did, and like, oh, it's just energy. Like we're getting it. We get our energy from the fossil fuels anyway. Oh no, this is good. This is good. Talk about the jobs involved. You know, the fact that the energy is not separate from the economy, from industry. This is good.
You know, I think a lot done, a lot to do, as a slogan I used in an earlier stage of my life.
Well, thank you very much. I think you've outlined a pretty good agenda for the next hour and a half, and my colleagues and I will be asking you more detailed questions on most of those points in our time. We're going to ask you more about workforce planning a bit later on as well, but how important are the trade unions to both informing workers about the benefits of the transition and also in delivering the energy transition?
Well, there's an interesting question.
Very important, and I think it's a big change from the past. We inherited a situation where trade unions were just seen as special interests, basically, and pretty marginalised special interests. And look, I just do want to say quite clearly, I think the renewables industry still has some way to go in recognising the value and role of trade unions. This was an industry born at a time when trade unions were sort of quite far from being flavour of the month, and somehow it's been seen as sort of, I think by some in the renewables industry, as a sort of, they don't need to bother with trade unions. I am really encouraged.
I didn't know about that. That's bad. That needs to be dealt with, I reckon. I didn't know about that. That's really bad.
Encouraging. Obviously, companies have to make their own decisions, but I am very, very encouraging of the role of trade unions. I think in the supply chains, you've recently seen an agreement between SEA Wind and the GMB Union Recognition Agreement, which is really, really important. This is just in the last few weeks. But we've also seen GB Energy Nuclear reach agreement with the Prospect Trade Union, and we want to see more of this happen. And look, why? Because I believe that trade unions have a crucial role to play in our society. Because I think they can actually make businesses work better, not worse. I don't take an old-fashioned view that somehow trade unions are a recipe for conflict. They can be a recipe for cooperation and success.
Yes.
And workers deserve to be properly represented. And so this is a really big emphasis that I want to, that I've tried to show leadership on in the last year. I'd also mention EDF renewables have.
This is why I say that Ed Miliband is one of the stars of this government. One of the only stars of this government. He's on top of his brief. He's really good at communicating what he's doing. And not only that, but he's not afraid of going into the detail if he feels he needs to, or if he's just not afraid to do it. I like that. I'm really liking this. Like, I've watched quite a few select committees in the past, different select committees, and I mean, granted, they were all Tory. This is the first Labour one I've picked up on. It's been really good. Like, I mean, the past ones were always really hostile. You know, always constant fucking arguments. Because, you know, Tories refusing to admit they were wrong and all that jazz. Not with Ed Miliband.
We've also reached agreements with the trade unions as well in the last year.
Would you apply the same approach to the energy retail market?
I would encourage all companies involved in the energy sector to take seriously the role that trade unions can play in their companies.
Thank you. Now, when you gave your statement about energy market reform, I asked you about demand flexibility, and you talked about some of the tangible opportunities through electrification of heat for consumers and so on. But do you also see potential growing opportunity for consumers to take advantage of different tariffs, of the market to produce different tariffs to help people bring down their bills? And how do you see clarity being provided so that people understand and to take full advantage?
Yes, well, I think it's a really good question, Chair. Let me say a couple of things. First of all, I think the combination of heat pumps, potentially solar panels, potentially batteries, offer a way to give people real control over when they use electricity. And after all, the sort of wider promise here is to get off the insecurity of fossil fuels and onto clean electricity, homegrown clean electricity. So that's the first point. Secondly, we're moving in the direction over the next couple of years of minimum half-hourly settlements, which is a sort of technical thing, but it means that basically, you know, the much clearer option, if you like, of reduced tariffs at different times of the day. Now, you know, this is obviously entirely voluntary, but I think it does offer the opportunity for people to manage their usage in a way that they can take advantage of. Now, I think it's...
See, you probably guessed with me, I want the energy sector completely nationalised. I think an energy sector that's that's under the private sector, it's just, it's why our energy bills are so fucking expensive. Or at least one of the reasons. I just, you know, I mean, does it have to be this way? No, it doesn't. I just think that, like, whilst I would want him to go down that route now, I understand that it's not something that you can immediately do.
I use the phrase consumer-led flexibility because I think it is very,
Not
very
without
important
fucking
that
up
it's
the
voluntary and
markets.
it's consumer-led. Although actually what's so interesting is that when this was tried, first of all, a couple of years ago in the winter, I think of 22, there was actually much bigger take-up than was expected. So I think it's where consumers want to go, and it's something we want to enable as much as possible.
Can I just add, obviously this is something we are working very closely with Ofgem and NESO, and we have put together a low carbon flexibility roadmap in order to bring forward that consumer-led flexibility that the Secretary of State just outlined. Obviously, market-wide half-hourly settlement and smart meters are the sort of key enabling tools that underpin that. But we have seen strong interest from the sector and obviously innovation as well that all supports that journey.
Okay, well, thank you for the additional information. I declare an interest as a recent owner of a heat pump, which is functioning very well.
Are you enjoying it?
I am. Hotter water than I had with a gas boiler, I should say. And I benefited from the change in the in planning regulations on the
1 metre rule.
The 1 metre.
I'm glad we've been of service to you,
well,
Chair.
It's a personal counselling session here, or advice session from the department. However, I hear from some of the retailers that still 35% of heat pump installations require planning consent due to noise, and that anything above 35 decibels, which is similar to using a computer, and a lot less than the noise from a fridge, requires planning consent, and as a result, that's why heat pumps require it if they are too close to their neighbours. Do you think that further adjustments are needed here?
No.
So let me.
Wait, what? Hang on. What? Yeah, actually. What? It's quieter than a fridge, but you need planning permission for it because of noise levels. People are really pathetic. Oh my god. Fucking hell.
Let me answer that directly. On the what we've done is we've changed the permitted development right on the 1 metre rule, as you said, and this is talked about for a long time, and nothing was really ever done about it. And I think it has made a difference. I know some retailers I think have said to you that this the noise issue remains a big barrier. You've drawn that to our attention, and we're going to look at that. As to whether this is about the rules and the way they are being enforced and the knowledge of the rules, because often what I find on some of these planning issues is sometimes it's the rules and sometimes it's the enforcement of the rules and sometimes it's the awareness of the rules, and you've got to work out which it is. But
it's just the nuance, man. It's just fantastic. Anyway, what the fuck? So they're quieter than the fridge freezer. You don't need planning permission for a fucking fridge freezer. What the? I'm sorry. This is quite frankly ridiculous. This is quite frankly fucking stupid. What the fuck?
But I think my overall approach would be to say that where there are barriers, let's get rid of them if we possibly can. And if the noise thing is a barrier, obviously subject to making sure that there isn't disturbance to people, which I don't think there will.
If it's louder than a fridge freezer, then like, yeah, okay. Like, you're getting like, okay, that's a bit. But I hear our fucking boiler from outside when it's on. If someone's doing the washing up or running a bath or something, and I'm down in the back, I can fucking hear our boiler. Where's the fucking... Where's the same standards applied there? That's fucking bullshit.
Will be, we should act on it.
Thank you for those answers. Now, we heard on the Sunday media rounds the...
Oh, and our boiler isn't some fucking really old boiler either. I mean, it's... oh, fuck's sake. Oh. Sorry, guys. It's not really old. I mean, it's 20, 15, 20 years old, but it's not like a 40, 50-year-old boiler. You know? Like, I've done some houses who've still got a fucking 100-year-old boiler. It's fucking stupid. But even our fairly modern boiler is really fucking old. Really fucking old. Really fucking noisy. But they don't apply the same fucking standards to boilers that they do to these fucking heat pumps. Oh no, they're a bit noisy. We need to enforce the rules really heavily around this. Bullshit. Fucking bullshit. I'm calling bullshit and shenanigans on this shit.
The Reform, Nigel Farage, saying something that is often repeated, which is what is the point of us transitioning to net zero when we are responsible for such a tiny fraction of the world's emissions Now,
We don't need to fucking add to it. Not only that, but like net zero, like we're not the only ones going net zero. We're not the only ones making an effort. This really fucking pisses me off. I've heard this from Nigel Farage supporters myself. It's just we aren't the only ones making an effort. Oh, we're the only ones doing it. No, we're not. This is fucking stupid. Oh, well, China's still using loads of fossil fuels. So are we. But not only that, China is many times our size in both landmass and population. Turning that ship around is going to be a lot slower than it has been for us to turn the ship around when it comes to energy usage. Don't be fucking stupid. Redundant fucking arguments.
in our inquiry building the case for the energy transition, we've heard evidence of the economic benefits, of the national security benefits. What do you think is the answer to what Mr. Farage was saying yesterday, and
what I just fucking said?
Quite a lot of people, in my experience, also say.
We're taking action on the clean energy transition because it's the right thing to do for the country today, and it's the right thing for future generations. And it's really important to say this. You know.
Okay, he puts it better, right? He puts it better. This is why he's an MP and I'm fucking not, as well as many other reasons. Like, he's got teeth and I'm running out.
I think Nigel Farage wants to airbrush history. He wants people to forget about the fact that it was our exposure to fossil fuels that led to the worst cost of living crisis in generations. Family finances wrecked, business finances wrecked, and still paying the price. Perhaps we'll come on to that. And public finances wrecked as well. And there is only one answer to that, which is homegrown clean energy we control. And the security you get from that homegrown clean energy is what is now essential for our energy security and our national security. And anything else, any decision to say let's just remain on fossil fuels subject to a global market controlled by petrostates and dictators is frankly surrenders our energy security and indeed our national security. And so, you know, reform can sort of make these arguments, but they fly in the face of the British people's experience of what has happened to them and what they are still facing. Plus, as well as energy security, this is the right thing to do for jobs. And if you go to what's happening at Sizewell, or carbon capture and storage in 4 different parts of the country, or indeed offshore wind, or what we hope to do on hydrogen, this is the jobs opportunity of the 21st century, and we should seize it. It's also the right thing for future generations as well. As I said in my climate and nature statement a week ago, we should be proud of what Britain has done under governments of both the Conservative and Labour parties in taking a lead and others following.
Okay,
You're
carrying
carrying out a
on that one.
participation survey, or you're about to. Do you think that that will be sufficient to ensure people have all the facts and are able to see for themselves the benefits that you've just set out, or do you think, and just an allied point, who are the best people to carry these messages? Who is most trusted in this space?
Well, look, I think your inquiry is a really important inquiry, and I'll look forward to seeing the results of it. We've got to make the case, and I think all of us have to make the case who believe in this case. And, you know, I think workers who are benefiting from clean energy, scientists who can tell us why we need to act, businesses that are also operating in this area, but also ourselves as politicians. If we believe in this, we should make the argument. And, you know, I think it's interesting this, because we've had two reform mayors elected, Andrea Jenkins and Luke Campbell. they've just taken funding from my department for clean power in their areas, and I'm really pleased that they're taking that
Fucking
funding.
hypocrites.
But the lesson of this is that those mayors faced with the choice of cutting bills through clean power or keeping their areas locked on expensive, insecure fossil fuels chose the clean power course. And I think it proves that Reform's energy policy, frankly, disintegrates upon contact with reality and contact with what the British people actually want to see.
Thank you. Now, I know you're going to publish the Warm Homes Plan in the autumn, I think. And thank you very much for the response to our retrofitting homes for net zero report, in which you made very clear that's what you were going to do. It was broadly the answer you gave to our recommendations. Your offer is to cut energy bills for consumers by hundreds of pounds. How will you ensure that people recognise that this is the result of government action?
Well, look, I think the most important thing is that it happens. And, I think it is worth pausing on that for a moment. In a very, very tight fiscal backdrop, the Chancellor chose to invest 13.2 billion over the Parliament in the Warm Homes Plan, in line with our manifesto commitment. I think it's incredibly important. It's part of contributing to us upgrading 5 million homes over this Parliament. And look, this is about social justice. This is, if you take our Warm Homes obligation, this is about delivering, in particular, we'll talk more about this in the autumn, to the poorest families, a combination of energy efficiency, heat pump technology, batteries, solar panels that can cut people's bills for good. And this is something that the Prime Minister often talks about, which is not a sticking plaster, but actually cutting bills for good. And, we will shout about this, make this clear, that this is something that this Labour government is doing and choosing to do.
Fucking hypocrisy of Reform mayors and councillors. Oh, we don't want green energy, whilst on the same time taking money from the renewable energy money to get renewable energy in their area. Fucking hypocrites, charlatans, lawyers. Fuck's sake.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I will pass over to Holly Billington now.
Thank you very much, Chair. Richard Tice, the Member of Parliament for Skegness, wrote some letters to energy companies last week saying a future Reform government would cancel contracts for renewable energy. What do you think about that?
What a fucking... Again, this man has a solar farm. What the fuck? As in Richard Tice, Deputy Lead, the person she's talking about. Fucking hypocrites.
Well, it was, if I'm allowed to use this phrase, a sort of clown car operation, I think it's fair to say, by Richard Tice, because he wrote a letter saying he was going to rip up the contracts and then went on the PM programme that afternoon to rebut his own letter. And to say that he'd been highly misinterpreted, and he wasn't going to tear up the contract. Look, I think the broader point here is that this is driven not by concern for the British people or interest in people's energy bills. It's ideology, and as I think Theresa May put it a few months back, it's the people pushing this anti-clean energy agenda that are the real ideologues in this.
Yes.
Because why would you want to stay on expensive, insecure fossil fuels? And we only need to look at the geopolitical situation to see the level of insecurity and exposure that we have. Why would you want to stay on those when you can have cheap, clean power that we control?
I think one of the questions that he suggests that is an issue is that we may lose jobs as a result of this in different industries, and also that there is not at the moment...
We're going to lose jobs in the oil and gas industry. Yes, because we're going to be moving away from them. Like there are no real jobs in coal in this country anymore either. But then I've also heard that Reform are wanting to bring back coal. What the fuck? It is stupid. It really is stupid and harmful.
With the current energy market, there's not an absolute conviction or clarity about the pathway to making sure that this does result in cheaper energy for everybody, particularly for businesses.
I mean, it's very interesting that you should ask this question, Polly, because the industrial energy prices thing is very serious situation, and I read with interest some of the testimony you had to your committee on as part of your cost of energy inquiry. But it's really important to understand why this happened, because what's basically happened is that when the crisis, I've got a sort of chart here, when the crisis hit, when Russia invaded Ukraine, industrial energy prices basically doubled. And
that is because the price of energy is tied to the price of fossil fuels on the global fucking market. We tie our energy prices to the real price of renewable energy, we wouldn't be paying as much fucking energy price. We wouldn't be paying as much for our energy. That's the whole fucking point. But what hasn't happened yet? Infrastructure. All our infrastructure at the moment is made for gas and oil. It's going to take time. This is why the word transition is being used so fucking much.
Haven't got the gas price hasn't got back to the level it was at in the past, and so bills are remaining high. I was particularly struck by some testimony that you had from the director of the Energy Intensive Users Group, who said to your committee, and I quote, "With the energy crisis that hit after Russia invaded Ukraine, it's the wholesale electricity price that has been the dominant factor in driving electricity prices." In other words, there are people who want to use their opposition to clean energy and climate action to say this is all the fault of that, but they're just wrong. And that's what the energy intensive industries are saying. Now, I don't want to underestimate some of the seriousness of the situation, but first of all, we've got to work out the reasons why industrial energy prices are high. And secondly, the really irresponsible thing about what Richard Tyson's doing with that letter is he's almost deliberately putting at risk tens of thousands of jobs across our country. The net zero economy grew 3 times faster than the economy as a whole last year. He's sending a message to...
It's the same shit they did with Brexit. Sending letters out to businesses and shit, so Brexit's gonna be good for you. Really, is that why a load of big businesses moved their base to the EU after we did Brexit, for fuck's sake? It's all fucking lies.
Business and others don't come and invest in Britain.
From Richard Tice and Nigel Farage and the Tories.
We're sending the message, come and invest in Britain, and actually to the tune of about 50 billion. They have been investing in Britain since the election, making commitments to invest in Britain, and that's about good jobs for people up and down the country, including in your constituency, and indeed Richard Tyson.
Especially here in the southwest. There's a lot of green energy to be gotten from the southwest.
One follow-up on that. I absolutely appreciate there's about 1 million jobs involved in this industry overall, but there are jobs that will need to change or disappear.
Yes, just like the coal industry. It's just you don't have to do it in a damaging way. This is why Labour are going to want to do retraining programs. So these people can learn how to work on go from the gas and oil industry sector onto the green energy sector. Rather than just leaving these people and areas destitute like fucking Thatcher did.
So what do you see your role as Secretary of State? As you said, you're an industrial policy department as well as an energy policy department. What do you see your role as in making sure that that transition away from dirty fossil fuels does not mean the kind of absolute trashing of communities that we saw in our lifetime 40 years ago.
Look, we should be judged on the justice of this transition. We are absolutely determined to have a just transition. And look, let's just take the North Sea for a minute. 70,000 jobs were lost in the North Sea, have been lost in the North Sea in less than a decade, because the North Sea is a declining basin. And the truth is that unless you build that future in carbon capture and storage, in offshore wind, in a whole range of, in hydrogen, in a whole range of other areas, unless you make sure that when we...
So, I'm just going to address hydrogen and carbon capture, the CCS stuff. I've said before, and I know Graham Hughes rails on about how this stuff doesn't do shit. It does, it just, we don't want to use it in the same way that we use things. The point of the green energy movement wasn't just to move on to renewables, it was to diversify our energy sources. Yeah? So not just rely on wind and solar, but to have geothermal, hydroelectric, tidal, hydrogen. I don't know about carbon capture. I think has its niche use cases, same as hydrogen. You use hydrogen to do other stuff, and I'm pretty sure there are emerging technologies that are finding ways to get hydrogen without using fossil fuels. That's the whole thing about technology. It evolves. And now I'm not going to take it, oh, we've been waiting for it for years, we've been waiting for it. Yeah, that's how technology does things. It takes years to get up to it, and then they make a big jump. And then it takes loads more years. Oh, nuclear fusion it's been coming for the last 70 years. Because it's fucking difficult. That's why. But not impossible. Nuclear fusion is entirely plausible. Is very possible. We can do it. It's a case of continuing to evolve the technology. Continuing to do the science. Not just going, oh, it's taking ages, so it's useless. It's not going to have any effect. We didn't have fucking nuclear energy at all up until about 100 years ago, 100 odd years ago, as an energy source. It took more than 10,000 years of using different energy sources to get to nuclear. And now people are going, oh, it's taking too long to get to nuclear fusion. Fuck off. I'm sorry, no, I love Graham, but it's a ridiculous argument. It really is. Oh, it just takes us too long. Yeah. That's how evolution works.
When we build that offshore wind, it is built in Britain as well as elsewhere, then we are not going to replace those jobs that are declining. And so...
And yeah, so that's I love the point he's making here. Like, the oil and gas sector jobs from the north, especially in the North Sea area, are falling anyway because the amount in the North Sea is falling. You know, it's not it is a finite product, fossil fuels, gas and oil. It's not always going to be there.
You know, I absolutely accept that we should be judged on the justness of this transition. In order to make this transition just, you've got to have put in place the levers to make it so, and that's, in a way, goes back to the opening question from the chair. That's what the National Wealth Fund, Great British Energy, our Clean Industry bonus as part of Auction Round 7, all of these things are absolutely designed to do. And one of the things that Jerry and I spent a lot of time talking about is how do we make sure that we are that industrial policy department that is actually delivering those jobs for the future.
And in the context of that, the clean energy target of 2030, does that militate against the development of the supply chains that we will need in the long term because we're going faster rather than fairer.
Quite the opposite. Because actually, if you think about the building of network infrastructure, it's creating tens of thousands of jobs. If you think about the
So yeah, like it's exactly what I wanted to hear. We are building the infrastructure for green energy. This is what I want to hear.
signal we're sending to investors. Look, I meet investors all the time from all around the world, and I'm not trying to blow our own trumpet here, but so many of them say to me, "You're a government with a stable majority, and you're a government which has a clear plan." And you know what you're doing. You're saying you're minimising uncertainty, and we'll perhaps come on to zonal pricing and all that. You're minimising the uncertainty.
Ooh. Ed Miliband wants to talk about zonal pricing. He brought it up. I like this.
You're creating the stable environment in which we can invest. And frankly, given all of the pressures around the world and some of the doubts that some people are expressing on this agenda, for businesses, having somewhere to invest that they can rely on, and they say this to me explicitly, is so important.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll follow up briefly on some of what you just said. Lindsay Oil Refinery was in the news recently with the administration, and the workers there, anecdotally and perhaps more than anecdotally, are saying, look, we see all these renewables being developed, we see our jobs being lost. We can only conclude that our jobs are going because of net zero. What's the way?
Yes. Yeah. That is the case. We're phasing you out. We're phasing that dirty technology out to go on to clean energy, which means you need to change your job. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know what to say to this. Like, yeah, people are going to lose their jobs in the oil and gas sector. Yeah, that's going to happen. That doesn't mean they can't retrain and go into the green energy sector themselves. This comes across to me as a bit of an excuse to whinge and whine. Oh, they take our jobs. No. Yeah, well, yes. Yes, we're taking your fucking jobs. We're getting rid of those jobs. We don't need them anymore. Just
Way of addressing it sort of goes to the previous discussion.
Let me come to the specific and the general. On the specific, let's just be absolutely clear of what's happened at that refinery, is that the workers have been deeply let down by the people who ran the refinery.
okay. I didn't know
I'm deeply
specifics to do
disturbed by some of what I have seen and heard, and some of my experiences in dealing with the people running the refinery during the run-up to the announcement. That's why I've written to the Insolvency Service, asking them to look into some of the conduct that we saw. This has been a loss-making refinery over the years. It's been controlled by the particular company. More broadly, but you know, I have deep sympathy with the workers and the community, and
Okay.
my colleague Michael Shanks went to see the workers last week to talk to them about the situation. Obviously, the official receiver will have to make announcements about the future of the refinery, but more broadly on the refinery sector, this is a sector that myself and Michael are really engaged in. We had a meeting Michael had a meeting last month, I had one earlier this month, with the umbrella body that covers the refinery sector. I would just say in passing that they said that was the first meeting they'd had with ministers in 13 years.
Wow. Wow, the first meeting they've had with the minister in 13 years. The last time they had a minister talk to them was when David Cameron was still in charge with the Lib Dems. Wow. Tory incompetence to the max, eh?
Because they had reached out to previous ministers and hadn't had any meetings, and we are looking at some of the specific circumstances facing the refinery sector, including looking at the so-called EII, Energy Intensive Industries Compensation Scheme, which the refinery sector doesn't qualify for. It's also worth saying that there are refineries that are doing well, like the Phillips 66 refinery, which is nearby to Prax. Investing in CCS can help the refinery sector. SAF can help the refinery sector. Look, part of the challenge here is we can't as government stop the process of industrial change, but we must make the process of industrial change work for workers and communities, and that's what we're committed to doing.
Yeah.
Should have just said that they need to get new jobs. I'm sorry, but they do. They need to reskill and go into the green energy sector. They take their jobs. Yeah, we're moving away from gas and oil. That's going to happen. I don't know what else to say on that one, really. Like, it's...
Thank you. I'd add to Phillips 66 the SR refinery, which is near my constituency, who would make a similar case. You were talking before about the high costs of energy, and this was in relation to business costs in particular, but it's true for domestic and industrial users. Why are our transmission costs, as well as our generation costs, so much higher than France and Germany?
Look,
Well, I mean, I don't know about Germany, but France has plenty of nuclear reactors. A lot of their energy grid is made up of from nuclear energy. Nuclear fission, but still nuclear energy.
the fundamental problem we have here is our exposure to fossil fuels. That is the sort of, and I think it came through in your cost of energy inquiry, particularly on the industrial side. I think it came through in what I said from the energy intensive users group. The whole point of Clean Power 2030 is to get us off reliance on gas, because and we've seen it in the time that this government has been in power. The wholesale gas price goes up, and it feeds through to bills. The price goes down, and thankfully it feeds through into a reduction in
wholesale
bills.
gas is tied.
But it's not in our control.
Gas and oil.
And if we want to have control, if we want to take back control,
Wholesale
then
price is tied
we
to
need
gas
this
and oil.
homegrown clean energy. And every solar panel we put up, every wind turbine we put up, gives us that. Every nuclear power station that we can build gives us that greater control. Now, specifically, if you're talking about industrial users, I'm really pleased at what we were able to do in the industrial strategy. The previous government took action through the supercharger to help around 500 businesses. We're now helping 7,000 energy-intensive industries through the BICS scheme. I recognise from the and this has been widely welcomed by Make UK, the British Chambers of Commerce, and others. I recognise in your inquiry the issue for those businesses not necessarily being helped by these measures. The best answer is to drive towards Clean Power 2030 because it gets us off this reliance on gas. And the key thing about driving to renewables is it lowers the wholesale price. The fundamentals here. How is it that clean power is about bringing down bills for good? Because it lowers the wholesale price and gets us off the link to gas.
So the Clean Power 2030 agenda will move us on to CFDs setting the prices, essentially. Is it right that government effectively sets the price?
Well, it's through an auction. I mean, look, we set an administrative strike price, but that's a ceiling, and then it's through an auction process. And one of the things I take incredibly seriously, I took it seriously with AR6, but I inherited it mid-flight, and I'm taking it very, very seriously for AR7, is how we both maximise deployment, but do it in a value for money way. And, the sort of big focus we've had, and we've announced some of the changes on this, including lengthening CFDs, including who we let into the competition, is to make sure that we maximise the deal we get for the bill pay through this process.
Thank you. I'll pass.
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly, and I will come to my set of questions. But we also understand, and our leader at Davis pointed that out last week, that in the meantime, I totally agree with what you're saying about we need to get away from the reliance on fossil fuels and therefore the strategy of the government to have more renewables. I absolutely agree with that. But in the meantime, our electricity cost is still too much dependent on gas prices because they're linked together. The wholesale gas price is linked to the electricity price, and there is a proposal on the table of how to change that to get away from the ROCs onto CFDs. And I hope the department is looking very closely in that proposal because that is one of the reasons why our energy prices are still so high. But Chair, I know that you want to ask me a completely different set of questions, and therefore I will move.
It's up to you to ask the questions.
I hope that you, Secretary of State, will look at the proposals from our leader, Ed Davey, about our.
Shall I just just to sort of? But it's one thing worth having because the modellers have been hard at work. So I've got some sort of modelling. It's just important to. We love the modellers, particularly in our department. Look, just one thing to say is some useful figures for the committee. In 2024, gas power plants set the price of electricity 2/3 of the time. In 2030, our modelling suggests they would set the price only 1/3 of the time. But there's something more, sort of even more important, if you like, which is in 2024, around 1/5 of generation was shielded from the wholesale price through CFDs and feed-in tariffs and nuclear. In 2030, this will cover 2/3 of generation. So what you're seeing is a big switch in how much of the time gas sets the price and the extent to which any sort of benefits of cheaper power are fed through to consumers. Obviously, I'm familiar with the issue that you talked about, and we'll look at any proposals that there are on this.
Thank you.
Okay, not an outright rejection of that. So, well, I don't quite understand. Is he saying that energy price for us isn't all of the time set by gas? What? I'm not sure I understand that.
I'm sure we can very much cooperate on this. So the questions that I now want to ask is about this committee. So we obviously see the value of this committee. We spend a lot of time, of our time, and it's interesting, but obviously we want to be of value to the whole system. So you as Secretary of State and your department, what is the value of the committee to you?
That sounds like a sort of too softball a question. There must be a but. I see the committee as very valuable, and I'm not saying that to butter you up. As I say, I spent part of the weekend. My enjoyable Sunday reading was your testimony, previous testimony that you'd had, and that was very useful.
Yes, and here comes the slightly harder.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
So department letters to the committee are often simply a rehash of written ministerial statements. Given we are a more informed audience, could you consider providing a bit more detail or analysis in these letters?
Okay, so one nerd level down, if you like. I consider that a compliment, by the way. When I say that's absolutely fine. If
he's a nerd, dude's a nerd. Nice.
The request of the committee is that when we do written ministerial statements, we provide extra detail to the committee. I'm sure that's something we can request that we can meet.
And sort of giving more information to the committee ahead of media, for example, is that also a possibility?
I mean, look, I'm very happy to look at how we do this. We obviously, are careful about making sure that we do written ministerial statements in Parliament and so on, and indeed oral statements. But obviously, I'm happy to take offline with the committee. The chair and I and the clerk had a conversation about this last week, how we can furnish the committee as well as we can with the information it needs.
Okay, I've been enjoying this. This is one select committee that I quite like, actually. It's been pretty good. Let me know what you guys think on this one. I'm going to do this as a part 1, part 2, possibly part 3, depending on how long this live stream is on for. Yes, I know I haven't got good form on this. I do still have the other stuff to do, the part 2s to do with the other Parliament stuff that I've done in the past. I do still have those links, just getting around to it. It's a pain in the arse. But this is one that I really will be keeping an eye on. Hopefully later today I should be doing. Again, I actually think it'll be tomorrow. I'll do Ed's State of the Climate and Nature statement, and then more likely later today I should be doing the EnviroVid covering the next section of British Ecological Society's nature-based solutions report. So yeah, like I said, I will put the link to this in the description. Please let me know what you thought of the volume. Yes, I know I need to get a microphone. If I'm using my laptop microphone, I need to get a proper microphone. I know, but please let me know if you could hear Ed and the select committee. Okay, all right. So please like, subscribe, and comment. My sword at your service badges and my shield at your backs. Freaks blessings.